Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. Today I'm at the foot of the Cairngorm Mountains. The Cairngorm Mountains are a big national park and they're really nice to hike through, and you can climb a few things there and you can fish, and yeah, they're really beautiful. And today they're a bit cloudy, a bit rainy, and usually you can see a few unicorns going through the mountains there, but today I don't think you see a lot of them. I can't show them to you up close because only virgins can tame the very gentle and dangerous creatures. The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland, and yeah, it is very beautiful and used in many heraldics and many royal gowns. The Gaelic word for foot of the hill is Fettercairn, and this is the village I am in today. The village of Fettercairn also has a whiskey distillery, and today we're gonna have a look how the Fettercairn whiskey is made. So let's talk about a history of Fettercairn. Fettercairn was founded in 1824 by Sir Alexander Ramsay, and he founded the distillery not as Fettercairn, but it was founded as the Nethermill Distillery. The Nethermill was a small farm mill, and it was actually a water mill. They had a little wheel here, and the water that was used for milling is now used for distilling whiskey. The distillery was much more successful than the mill, so the mill discontinued and now they just focus on the whiskey. Sir Alexander Ramsay didn't have the distillery for very long, and he sold it to one of his other lords, and he sold it to John Gladstone, and he ran the company from there on. Unfortunately, the distillery burned down in the end of the 19th century, but luckily the distillery was only closed for 3 years, and it reopened and was back up running. In the 1960s and 1966, they actually had a really big thing. They increased the capacity of the distillery. They put in 2 new pot stills into the still house, and that was really successful. But unfortunately, in the 70s, they got into a bit of a rough situation. They got sold a couple of times and they ended up with White & Mackay. And this is where they are still part of White & Mackay. And White & Mackay really treats Fettercairn really good, and they are now focusing a bit more on the single malt side, and they are just painting all of the buildings very nicely, and it's being opened up more and more to the public. You can already visit them. They have already a visitor center, but they are just renovating everything. But inside the distillery, it is already pretty nice. And today we're gonna have a look how the Fettercairn whiskey is made. This here is the spot where most of the historians estimate where the water wheel for the Nethermill was located and the local grain was milled. Today the distillery uses the water as process water. That means you use the water for everything that is not directly involved in making the whiskey, for cooling purposes and other stuff that is not inside the whiskey. That's because it comes from a local burn, and that is a surface water, and that might be contaminated, so there is a bit of a variation of quality. The water for the whiskey has to be of high quality, so what the distillery did was they have a direct tap into a water source in the Cairngorm Mountains, so it goes 2 miles in, and they have really clear spring water from all the rain upside the mountains, or all the snow that is melting up in the hills. Let's talk about malt and the mashing. We have a very old cast iron mash tun with a copper lid. It was installed in the 80s, but it was bought as a used mash tun from a different distillery, and the lid was actually just added later in the late 80s. And it uses the traditional old way of mashing. You don't have the lauter tun, you have the old sparging with a rake, mixing everything and the spring water coming in at the bottom and being splashed into the mash tun. You have 5 tons of malted barley grist, and it is mixed together with 18,000 liters of fresh spring water from the outside during the first mashing. The second mashing is 10,000 liters, and the third mashing is 17,000 liters, but it is pumped into a separate tank because it doesn't contain enough starch and sugar, and it will be reused for the first water in the next mashing process for the first mash. Yeah, when we have enough sugar and starch for a really nice, sweet mash, then it is pumped towards the fermentation, and before it comes to the fermentation, you cool it down to about 20 degrees Celsius. The distillery has 11 wash bags, and they fill each wash bag up to 25,000 liters. They just recently, in 2015, enhanced their capacity. They tear out a wall and they built in 3 new wash bags, so they're now up to 11. And what is really wonderful is it's now a very long room, and you have a beautiful view on the end of the room into the Cairngorm Mountains. The wash bags are made of Oregon pine, and this is really nice because inside the wood there are mycobacteria that enhance the flavor of the wash during the fermentation. The fermentation takes about 56 hours, and you end up with a wash with 8% alcohol, which is like a beer, but not with the flavor of the hops. So it's a bit less strong beer in the flavor, more fruity, more cereal-like. And what Fettercairn is looking at, they want to have a bit of a balanced, slightly fruity touch to their wash. This is a bit of their wash. I can refill that, and let's have a little try. If you compare it with a beer, it's not as bitter as a beer. A beer is much more bitter with the hops. It's much more fruity. It's like a wheat beer, a German Weizen, and it's much more fruity. So you have a bit of a banana, a bit of a pineapple going on. When you try it, it's sour. It's really sour because of the long duration. But this will all change during the process of the distillation. Now I'm at the center of Fettercairn, in the still house. And behind me, you can see the 4 beautiful stills. There are 4 pot stills. The wash stills are same size. They are filled with 12,500 liters of wash. And the spirit stills are a bit different. One of them has 11,800 liters, the other one has 13,400 liters. But the very special thing about Fettercairn is the cooling ring. You can see it, it's very spectacular. It's taking fresh spring water and letting it flow down the neck of the still. This heats the water, and this room here is really steamy. So it kind of feels a bit like a sauna, and this cools down the copper. And on the inside of the copper, you have the alcoholic fumes, and the heavier parts condense on the side of the still and flow down back in the pot. And it also creates turbulences. That's called reflux. And this reflux also increases the separation of the alcohol. So what you get is a lighter alcohol, a lighter spirit with less oily parts. And this is what Fettercairn wants. They want to have the tropical flute flavors, the lighter flavors, extremely fruitiness, and they really want to reduce a bit the heavy, oily, deeper, darker tones that will be left back in the pot. And The cool thing is they are really up here at Fettercairn with energy conservation. So the energy you take out of the copper, you get into the water, and the water is then used inside the boiler room to make the steam to heat the pot still. So when you cool the neck of the still, you don't lose the energy because you can convert it back into steam in the boiler room. The warehouses at Fettercairn are very, very traditional. They are dunnage style. That means you have a stamped clay floor with thick walls made of thick stone, and all the casks are only stored 2 stories tall. The casks vary from bourbon barrels 200 liters to hogshead 250 liters and end up with 500 liter sherry casks. The distillery has 14 warehouses with a total capacity of 30,000 casks. And when you talk about the maturation, you always have to include the climate. And the climate here on the eastern side of Scotland is very dry and very cold. The winters are between -15 and -10 degrees Celsius, so really, really cold. And also the summers are also cooler than in the rest of Scotland, so it's a very slow maturation. So you have a very slow maturation that is really, really pleasant for older Scotch whisky, and that's what we're about to enjoy at the Fettercairn Distillery. So I'm standing here with Stuart Walker, and you're the distillery manager here at the Fettercairn Distillery. Thank you very much for having us. You have 29 years of experience, so anniversary coming up.
Yeah.
So how did you become a distillery manager? How did you start off?
Well, I started off, Ben, as the warehouse operative. So I was working in the warehouse. I started in 1990. Then I went to the production side of it, the demashing and in stills. And then I became distillery brewer, looking after all the production of the distillery. And then in 2015, I became the distillery manager.
So you really worked yourself up to that position.
I've worked right through. Yeah.
That is nice to hear. So you've always worked for Fettercairn?
Always worked at Fettercairn, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Lived my entire life in Fettercairn.
Oh, nice. So, what are we having today?
Well, Ben, I was firstly I was going to let you have a wee nose and a taste of the Fettercairn 12-year-old.
Yeah, I had this I think 2 weeks ago. And it was lovely, but it always tastes different at the distillery.
Yeah, well, it probably enhances the taste of the distillery. So when you're nosing the 12-year-old, Ben, what you should get is a lovely sort of tropical fruit nose. That comes from the American sweet American oak that we mature our casks in. So we mature the 12-year-old and the 28-year-old in American oak casks, first fill bourbon. So it enhances that lovely tropical fruit notes that you get. So you should actually be picking up like, I'm going to say overripe bananas, pears.
Yeah, it's a lovely, fruity, light whiskey.
Yeah, it's a beautiful whiskey.
Unbelievable.
I always think that Fettercairn 12-year-old is a beautiful introduction dram, you know.
Yeah, it's a beginner's whiskey.
Yeah.
And 12-year-old is not overwhelming, and tropical fruits, everybody likes it.
Yep.
I love it. Got a nice amount of sweetness, a little bit of vanilla, but a lot of fruit.
A lot of fruit.
But they're fresh fruit.
Yeah.
So this tastes like a bourbon character.
Yeah.
Do you have any sherry in that or not?
No sherry. No. The 12 and the 28 is as I said, just bourbon casks.
So the Fettercairn range, you have a 12-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old. So are you any plans for the future for the range? Are there any new products? Or?
Yeah, so the plans for the future is that we're looking to, obviously there's quite a gap between the 12 and the 28, and we're aware of that. So we're looking to bring in possibly a 16-year-old and a 22-year-old to fill that gap.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Yeah.
So production-wise and stock-wise, is that possible?
No, it's all there. Everything's there. We're just looking at doing it.
Okay, you just have to blend it.
Basically, just put it all together, to be honest with you, Ben, and then hopefully sooner rather than later we'll have that.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Certainly looking at the 16 will be coming on quite soon, I would think.
Okay, nice. 28-year-old.
28-year-old.
Quite an old expression.
Yeah, so it's an old expression. So again, Ben, it's matured in American white oak casks. So it's really intensifies that rich, lovely fruity notes that you got in a 12-year-old. But it's got a wee bit more bite. It's more for a whiskey drinker, if you like. This is a really nice dram, to be honest with you.
Is there any sherry in it? Or?
No sherry at all.
It's a pure bourbon.
Pure bourbon.
So you have the lovely distillery character.
Yep.
Still fruity. I'd say it's a bit cold in here.
It is cold. It is a bit cold, but it's really.
Now it comes out.
Yeah.
So just need to warm it up a bit.
Yeah, so what you'll get with the 20-year-olds, as well as that lovely tropical fruit notes, there's a hint of citrus in there and a wee bit of spice.
Yeah, it's incredibly fresh for a 28-year-old. I was expecting more of a damp, old, more wood. A nice drum. But in taste, it's more full-bodied.
Yeah, it's more full-bodied, so it's more of it enhances that 12-year-old. It just sort of intensifies it, but it's got a wee bit of bite.
You have the tropical fruits are still there, but the other stuff is much more intense. So you have a much more balance in there.
Yeah. So
even a little more on the oak and the spiciness.
Spiciness, a bit more nuttiness in there. So
you said cinnamon.
Yep.
Cinnamon. Yeah, cinnamon is good. I would say also a bit of a nutmeg in there.
Yeah,
a little bit of nutmeg in there. I love that. I'm already also about 15 years in the business. Back in the days, I was picking the bottles and commissioning the orders for the customers. And I think I've seen old Fettercairn. Did you used to be old Fettercairn?
Yes. So when I first come to the distillery, we had our single malt was old Fettercairn. We stopped producing old Fettercairn, I think it was mid-90s, and we went into Fettercairn 1824, and then we stopped that range, I think it was about 2009, Ben, and we went to Fettercairn Fjord, and now we've went back to calling it just Fettercairn.
So you just switched between old Fettercairn and Fettercairn?
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to say old Fettercairn because, I don't know, it just stuck with me.
Yeah, I think it did stick with a lot of people because it was a name that was, out there, was the old Fettercairn, so.
Yeah, but I love it, especially I love the unicorn.
Unicorn, it's a beautiful, it's a stunning symbol. It's a sign of the purity of the spirit we make, but also our first owner was a guy called Alexander Ramsay, and the unicorn was the emblem on his family crest. So
You had a unicorn farm?
Now you're aware to have a wee nose and a taste of the 40-year-old. It's a special dram, the 40-year-old.
Okay, so is that also all bourbon?
No, it's been matured in bourbon, but the last 6 years it's been of its maturation is in a sherry cask.
Okay, so it's a finish now?
Finished in a sherry cask, yeah. Pedro Jimenez.
I just want to warm it up because it's such
it is quite cold
precious dram, and you don't want to have your whiskey cold, and especially don't put ice in that one.
100% no.
I can see that the beginners do ice with the 10 and 12.
Yeah,
okay, we can do that, but not with that one.
Not a 40-year-old. So again,
okay, that's a bit more creamy and a bit more. What is that?
You'll get like a lovely honey nose to it, and it's like there's like a treacle and a nutty finish. The citrus notes enhanced because the sherry. So you've got a lovely sort of citrus note coming through.
I do get the honey.
Yeah.
I do get the honey now. I love it. I love it.
Enjoy. So much flavours in there.
And the texture is awesome.
Yeah.
You have the flavors, but it's one of these. I love it when you have a 40-year-old. It's so smooth. It just goes around your mouth, and you touch it, and you have the flavors. And
when you swallow it, it just like just lightly goes down. It just beautiful.
The beautiful thing about this one is it has lovely flavors, but the cask is not overwhelming.
No, it's not. No.
So is that because of the weather around here, or the climate, or do you use refill? Is that refill then?
To be honest, I think it's just the type of sherry we've chosen. You know, so we deliberately didn't want to overpower the whiskey, because you know a sherry finish to me shouldn't overpower your initial spirit, if you like, Ben. You know, so you still want to be able to taste the Fettercairn, all that lovely tropical fruit notes.
No, it's one that. Now I get the citrus.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get the citrus.
Pick up the citrus.
Oh, lovely.
But it's beautiful, beautiful.
You don't get the citrus with it in a lot of old whiskies.
No, you don't.
They tend to be all like dark chocolate and you know the oaky flavors.
Yeah. To be honest with you, man, we have got a few old casks at Fettercairn, and you know, most of them, especially the ones that we have maturing in sherry casks, you know, there's that predominant note of citrus that does come through on that palate and that nose.
Oh, lovely. That will be new for German customers, but I think it's a precious one if you look at it.
Yeah, it is a good.
You got a lovely case here as well.
Yeah, the package is perfect. Really, really nice. Beautiful.
Yeah. So that's about it with the distillery. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you much for showing us around and showing the distillery and everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you very much for watching. And if you like the video, then please give us a thumbs up, and see you next time.